Most people think working longer is the safe option. After all, working longer means you can save more and spend down less of your portfolio. But the data says otherwise. Today I'm breaking down a study that will completely change the way you think about retirement and show why retiring in 2026, even if you're not ready, might actually be your best move. I'm Stephen Neely, a retirement planner and wealth advisor. I've worked with hundreds of retirees over the years, and one common theme comes up over and over again. The fear that if they retire and things don't work out, they're in big trouble because they'll have no ability to go back to work. Those concerns are completely understandable, but they're anchored to the wrong idea of what safe actually means. I'll never forget a client couple who had plenty of money, close to a couple $1 million in their portfolio, and based on their spending, their retirement plan showed that they could have retired around 60. Instead, they insisted on working until 65 because that's when Medicare kicked in. They did exactly that, and unfortunately, within 2 months of retiring, the wife was diagnosed with cancer. 6 months later, she was gone. The husband lasted about 2 more years before he died of heart disease. Now, that's an extreme example, but it illustrates a point people overlook. The window to fully enjoy retirement is far shorter than they think, and that's not an opinion, the data backs it up. In this video, we're going to talk about what I call the postponement paradox, the belief that delaying retirement makes you safer when in reality, it often increases your risk. We're also going to examine something called the frailty index and its startling implications for retirement. And finally, I'm going to show you a 3-step framework to determine whether you're actually ready to retire in 2026, even if you don't feel ready. So let's get into the video. Let's start with the postponement paradox, which is the belief that delaying retirement makes you safer when in reality it often increases your risk. On the surface, it feels logical, right? Work longer, save more, and shrink the number of years your portfolio needs to support you. And emotionally, it feels responsible. You're avoiding mistakes, you're playing it safe. But that entire mindset has a hidden flaw. It assumes that life, health, and markets will stay stable long enough for the plan to work. But oftentimes they don't. The truth is, postponement isn't neutral, it compounds risk. The longer you wait, the more you rely on markets staying cooperative, your health staying stable, and your independence lasting long enough to enjoy retirement. And those are the 3 things that become less reliable the closer you get to your mid-70s. People think they're buying safety by waiting, but when you actually look at the data on aging, the window to fully experience retirement shrinks much faster than most people realize. Let me show you what the data actually says, because once you see it, the whole idea of waiting for the perfect moment starts to fall apart. First, according to the CDC, about 24% of Americans age 65 and older already rate their health as fair or poor. That's almost 1 in 4 people entering retirement with significant limitations. Second, that same dataset shows that nearly 1 in 10 older adults already struggle with basic self-care activities. That's things like dressing or bathing. That's not end-of-life decline here, that's age 65 and up. Third, a BMC geriatric study found about 1/3 of 70-year-olds report mobility restrictions in their homes and immediate surroundings. And by age 80, the majority do. So already we're seeing a pattern. Your functional independence erodes faster than most people expect, and it's happening before 75. But there's one study that takes this even further, and once you see it, it completely reframes how you think about retirement timing. It's called the Frailty Index, and it reveals a tipping point that most people never see coming. Before we discuss the index, if you're trying to figure out whether retiring in 2026 is actually possible for you, click the link in the description and fill out a short questionnaire. I'll send you a custom video walking through what the numbers say and what to keep an eye on so you can see if next year really should be your final year in the workforce. Now, let's talk about the paper that really changed the way I think about retirement timing. You can see on the screen here the study by Glenn Pridham, Kenneth Rockwood, and Andrew Rutenberg titled Dynamical Modeling of Frailty Index indicates that health reaches a tipping point near age 75. Great title, guys. Very descriptive, by the way. But, what makes this study so compelling is how massive it is. The researchers didn't just look at surveys or isolated medical records. They analyzed 47,592 people across 254,357 individual health assessments, pulled from two of the largest long-term aging studies in the world, the Health and Retirement Study in the US and the English Longitudinal Study of Aging in the UK. Each person's health was tracked using a frailty index, which measures roughly 30 to 40 different health deficits. That's things like mobility issues, chronic conditions, ADLs, hospitalization history, and more. The researchers weren't just counting problems either. They were modeling damage and repair, how quickly people accumulate new problems, and how quickly they recover from existing ones. And here's what they found. Across tens of thousands of people, robustness and resilience fall in a predictable pattern, and all of those trajectories converge on a single point. Around age 75, the body hits a tipping point. Damage starts to exceed repair, recovery slows, and the frailty index begins accelerating upward. In the author's words, age 75 marks a sudden increase in vulnerability, driven by a rapid loss of robustness and resilience. When you hit that tipping point, you don't necessarily feel it on your 75th birthday, but the math says your future health path becomes dramatically steeper. Your margin for setback shrinks, and the window for high-quality, high-capacity years begins closing fast. Now, why does this matter for retirement? Well, when you delay retirement into your mid or late 60s because it feels safer, you're often trading away what the study calls your long, robust, resilient period before the tipping point for more years working, plus a slightly larger portfolio that you may or may not get to enjoy. And the extra savings? They may have far less impact on long-term financial outcomes than you think. This is where the paradox comes in. People delay retirement because they want safety, but the data shows the real risk is losing the healthiest years you have left. This is why the timing question matters so much. The longer you postpone, the smaller your window becomes. But the solution isn't to panic, it's to plan. So let me show you the 3-step process I use with clients to determine whether they're truly ready to retire. Step 1 is to calculate your essential coverage ratio. This tells you how much of your essential spending is covered by predictable income sources like Social Security, pensions, and annuities. And when I say essential spending, I mean the things you really can't reduce. That includes your property taxes, insurance costs, healthcare premiums, utilities, basic groceries, all the baseline expenses that keep your life running, whether the market is up, down, or sideways. I'm not talking about travel, dining out, entertainment, hobbies, or streaming services, things like that. Those are things you can adjust if you need to. Essentials are the expenses that are basically fixed. It's a simple calculation. You take your guaranteed income and you divide it by your essential expenses. If that number is 0.8 or higher, you're in strong shape. That means at least 80% of your core lifestyle is already covered before you ever touch your portfolio, which gives you the flexibility to adapt if markets get rough or inflation is higher than expected. And if your essential coverage ratio is 1.0 or above, even better. That means your essentials are fully funded by income that doesn't depend on the market. Okay, that's step number 1. Now let's move to step number 2, and that is to run a retirement plan stress test. Even if your essential coverage ratio looks solid, we still need to make sure your overall plan works when life gets messy. This is where, you load everything up and you look at things like higher inflation, market declines, long-term care costs, life expectancy. Everything is within your retirement plan. You don't need to understand every technical detail of a Monte Carlo simulation, but, if you do want to understand one threshold, if your plan shows at least a 75% probability of success and your essential coverage ratio is above 0.8, when we analyze plans and think about if you're ready for retire, that indicates to us you're on solid footing and you have room to adapt. I do want to mention, don't get too hung up on Monte Carlo and probability of success. A good, simple way to think of a 75% probability of success is that you have a 1 in 4 chance of having to adapt your plan at some point. That's all. And when we looked at that ratio, that will kind of indicate how much room you have to adapt. All right, that brings us to step 3, which is to assess your personal readiness. This part has nothing to do with numbers. It's about whether you're mentally and emotionally ready for retirement. Start by asking yourself, do I know what I'm retiring to? Actually write it out. What are the activities, routines, and relationships, projects that are going to fill your days? If you can't list them, you're probably not ready. Next, you need to ask, have I thought about how I'll use my days? What does an average Tuesday look like? Retirement without structure might feel exciting for a few months, but then it gets empty. You really need clarity here. Finally, you want to ask, how do I actually feel about my job right now? Does it drain you or does it energize you? Is it costing you your health or your time, or does it still bring meaning and purpose? Once you pass the first 2 steps, you're no longer forced to keep working, you're choosing to. And if you enjoy what you do, that doesn't mean you have to retire right away. It simply means that now you have the option to look at retiring fully or to slow down and maybe reclaim more of your time. So at the end of the day, the point of this video isn't to tell you you have to retire. It's to show you that waiting just 1 more year can be a much bigger risk than people realize. Your ability to enjoy retirement doesn't stay constant forever, and the data makes it clear that your healthiest and most capable years are limited, and they disappear faster the longer you postpone. Of course, nothing in this video is personal advice. Everybody's situation is different, but I do hope that it's given you a reason to rethink how you evaluate retirement timing, to look beyond your account balance and to recognize that time, not money, is the resource you can't replace. Now, if you're considering retiring in the near future and you want clarity on whether your numbers, your plan, and your lifestyle actually support that decision, click the link in the description and fill out the short questionnaire. I'll personally send you a custom video walking you through what the numbers say and what to focus on so you can make the right call. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.